On today's episode of Texar Predza Cooking, I show you how to take thin grocery store sale pork chops and cook them to flavorful and juicy perfection. Working with thin, cheap meats can sometimes be a challenge, but this recipe is sure to be a hit in your house. Stay tuned to learn how. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Texar Predza Cooking. Today we're going to be cooking cast iron pork chops. I specifically created this recipe because you know how a lot of times you go to the grocery store and you get pork chops and they're really thin, like a ½ inch thick? I wanted to figure out a way to cook these to where they don't dry out, and it turns out I almost prefer this method of cooking pork chops versus getting nice thick ones and putting them on the grill or anything like that. You can get a really nice crust to it and really good flavor. So let's get started. So first thing you're going to want obviously is some pork chops. Like I said, at the grocery store, a lot of times on sale they'll have center cut pork chops or even bone-in pork chops that are really thin, like ½ inch. What I do is I actually get a whole pork loin from Costco, and then I pre-cut it. I get 2 roasts out of it and a bunch of pork chops, and then I vacuum seal them and freeze them, so that way I can just pull it out of the freezer, let it thaw in the fridge overnight. For our oil, we're going to have olive oil. We're just going to use a little bit of this butter. I just use salted butter, whatever kind you like. Now my seasoning mix. So basically what I do is do salt, pepper, a little bit of cayenne pepper, and some garlic powder. And then the thyme I'm going to add during the cooking process. Now traditionally, if you're going to cook this butter basting, you'd actually take a whole garlic, crush it, add it to the oil, and ideally you'd have some fresh thyme from the garden, but you can use dried thyme just as well. If you've got fresh thyme, use that. I would say whole garlic in the pan turns out better, but if you don't have any on hand, powder works just fine. About an hour or two before you're going to start cooking, go ahead and take your pork chops and get them seasoned. The reason you want to do this a couple hours beforehand is so that the salt can penetrate into the meat. Like I said, this recipe is designed for those pork chops that typically go on sale at the grocery store that are cut real thin like this. Like I said, seasonings, some salt. You don't want a ton, maybe ½ a teaspoon on each side. Pepper, again, you don't need to go crazy, maybe ½ a teaspoon. Cayenne pepper, this will burn if you use too much of it, so just a little bit on there for a little bit of color, a little bit of heat. And garlic powder, same thing. This is going to burn a little bit anyway when it gets into the oil, so you don't need to do a lot. So you season one side, flip them over. Seasoning didn't really spread that well, but once it gets into that oil, it's going to spread throughout. So once you're done with this, pop it in the fridge, let that salt penetrate the meat. Like I said, at a minimum 1 or 2 hours before you're ready to start cooking. Alright, I actually found a little bonus ingredient here, my garlic scapes from my garden. When you grow garlic to harvest, one of the things it's going to do is send up a flower stalk, and you have to cut that off to get larger garlic bulbs. But what you can do with that stalk is cut it up and freeze it. And then these basically have a very mild kind of garlic flavor, and they're similar to kind of like green onions. I'm going to use this in place of the whole garlic when it's time to do the butter basting. This should give me kind of a nice garlicky flavor. Obviously optional. I don't think they even sell this at grocery stores, but if you do gardening and you got some garlic, scapes are a great little gardener's bonus that you can have. Alright, once you're ready to get started, you're going to take a cast iron. If you don't have a cast iron, you can use a regular pan. Non-stick you want to be careful with, because if you get it too hot it can release bad chemicals into your food. And then a stainless steel, it's going to stick a lot more even if you put a lot of oil and butter in it. Really, cast iron is going to be your best shot. So add a little bit of oil, just enough to coat the bottom there. You can kind of move your pot around like that to get it coated on all sides. Turn your stove on and get that preheated. If you don't have one of these, they're very convenient. It's a laser thermometer. Basically, you can use it to figure out how hot the surface of something is. This is great for preheating pans on your stove. You could do this old-fashioned way with just taking a little bit of water and flicking it into the pan to see if it sizzles. But really what you're looking for here is about 300, 350 degrees. Now if you do this long enough, you can usually feel the heat with the back of your hand. Another way to do it, take a little water, flick it in there, nothing happened, so just wait for it to start really sizzling and popping when you put it in there. You'll see it's doing it a little bit, but that's not quite enough to be fully warm. Another thing you can do with this is you can figure out your stove's hot spots. Like for example, if I go up to the edge over there, it's almost 300 degrees already, but up here it's barely 250. So that tells me there's a hot spot over here, and you can kind of adjust where your pan is to make sure that it heats evenly on your stove. See that water I flicked in earlier is really starting to pop off. We're at 350 on most of the pan. There's a little hot spot over here, but I can kind of avoid that. And you're going to put your pork chops in. Now when you put raw meat in here, lay it away from you, so that way the hot splatters splatter away from you. And just kind of evenly lay them out. And leave a little area right here. That's going to help you later when it's time to baste your pork chops. Once they're in there and they're sizzling, turn your heat down to about medium. Try to maintain that 350 degrees if you've got a thermometer. Now, being so thin, these pork chops are going to get some color pretty quickly, and they're going to cook through real quickly. So after about a minute or two, and check the other side. That's about the color that you're looking for your first flip. The other way you can tell is it should release pretty easily from the bottom of the pan. If you're having to scrape it off or if it's leaving a bunch of stuff behind, you may need to let it cook a little bit longer. Once you do that first flip, now it's time to add the butter and your aromatics. Take that butter and get it melted. You can take the pan and flip it to get that hot oil down there. And then just kind of spread it out. And once that butter's melted, you can start basting your pork chops. Now when you're basting these, you're going to have those little pieces, whether if you're using garlic, little pieces of garlic, it's okay if they end up on top of the pork chop. In fact, that will kind of prevent them from burning at the bottom. But just get a little splash of butter on top of all those pork chops to help them cook. Again, these are going to be real thin, so you don't want to really go off color. You want to use your meat thermometer. It's probably too early, but what we're looking for is a temperature of about 150 in the center. I've still got a little ways to go, but you can adjust the heat as needed. Do some butter basting. You can check the other side. See, that's not enough color, so just leave it. Let it keep building that color as you get to that 150 degrees. Alright, all those are reading 150, 160, so we can take them off now. Like I said, they're so thin, they cook real quickly. Now once you're done with the pan, this doesn't have to go to waste. What you can do is take some frozen vegetables. Best I've found is frozen broccoli. Toss it in here with the oil and butter, and then you can cook these as a good side dish. Alright, once you get those pork chops out of the cast iron or whatever you cooked them in, make sure to just let them sit for a little bit to rest. Because a lot of the moisture is going to come out of it, and then as it cools off it'll get kind of sucked back in. But let them rest for a little bit and you'll be ready to go. You can kind of see all the textures on that. You can see all the textures on there, how everything's brown, nice and crispy. That fat is rendered pretty well that's on the edges. This is what you want to see kind of with your color there. So as you could probably hear there by the end, my kids needed some attention, so I wasn't able to really record an exit video. Pork chops turned out great, flavorful, juicy. That recipe is always a hit at my house. So hope you enjoyed the video. The recipe will be in the description along with all the ingredients and tools that I used. Please like and subscribe to my videos. It really helps a lot. Also, if you have a chance, check out my affiliate links. If you click on the link and buy something, it doesn't have to even be the thing that it links to. It helps me tremendously trying to grow this channel and let me share more of my recipes with you. So hope you make the recipe. We'll see you next time.